Welcome to another episode of the Catholic Buzz podcast. We're so happy that you're joining us today. We have great things to talk about as we continue to explore different Catholic topics, and we're always joined by the two experts in the Catholic tradition. And I'm going to do a little switch here today. I'm going to first introduce my buddy Matt Van Milligan, and then over here, the guy I gave my sweatshirt to, my hoodie, Josh Sullivan.
That was good.
That was good. We matched today.
I know, yeah. I was hoping to maybe have just show my white shirt a little bit more.
Yeah, I know. See, black hoodies is the way to go.
I bought it from Walmart. It used to be a gray sweatshirt. They're selling it for cheaper now. It's black because it's full of smoke.
No. Too soon.
Too
soon to make that joke. Yeah, I think, but it's open now.
It is open. For those people that don't know, Walmart caught fire here in North Bay.
That's right. Walmart caught fire and was closed for like
a good couple weeks.
Yeah, a good couple weeks during like the Christmas, the Christmas like frenzy.
Yeah,
and I even noticed like I don't shop there all that often. I buy some things there, but planning for Christmas and trying to buy Christmas gifts, I was like, oh, Walmart's closed. Where am I to buy toys for my nieces, for example, or something, right?
It's amazing how much we actually depend on it.
Yeah,
like I need apples and a new sweatshirt, and I need to buy a toy for the kids. Where can
yeah, exactly.
This episode of the podcast brought to you by Walmart.
It's so true, eh? You just leave with the most random things when you shop at Walmart.
Really?
You got a coffee maker and like a laundry hamper and a loaf of bread or something, right?
Yeah. It's crazy.
And of course, I bought a Christmas gift there for Matt. It's a black hoodie. So we can be on the next
he's wearing a black sweater.
On the next episode, we'll all be wearing black hoodies.
I'm just still riding the wave that I wasn't the object of your embarrassing introduction today.
I know. It only took 30-some episodes.
Yeah, I know.
But it can change at any time. We can go back.
Staying on my toes.
Hey, so this week, so we're in the third week of Advent. Yeah. We celebrated the third Sunday of Advent just a few days ago. The pink week, the pink weekend. So we lit the pink candle of joy. Gaudete.
Okay,
the Sunday of rejoicing.
I know it's spelled. I just couldn't remember.
Yeah, and so we should be rejoicing. We're heading towards Christmas. Christmas looked a little bit different this year, but still, we got that inner joy that the Lord blesses us with. And some cool things that happened last week is Pope Francis announced another year with a particular topic for Catholics to focus on. He announced a year of Saint Joseph. So, we kind of explained it to people, but what does this mean? When the Pope announces a certain year of a certain topic, like what does that mean for the regular Catholic who comes to church? What should we be doing, and what does this even mean?
I remember a couple of different times throughout my life, I guess since I've been old enough to realize it, where the different churches have been announced: the year of mercy, the year of Jubilee, in year 2000. Holy Family, I think, was one. Whatever.
The year of St. Paul was about 10 years ago or so. Yeah, the year of mercy was just recently. I was telling that before that I was ordained during the year of mercy, which he made a great joke. That's why they ordained me, because they had mercy.
They let you in.
He didn't think I'd say it on the air, but yeah. So there have been a couple other years that the church marks.
So, from what I know, it's to have a focus, or like to give us a specific focus during the year. So all of our to give us a focus on the year, to deeper get into the devotions of Saint Joseph, or just to focus around everything that we do around that. Mm-hmm. So I remember the year of the family, Holy Family and stuff. It was also focused on the family itself. Year of Jubilee was all over the place with Jubilees. I think there was even stickers that people put on like doors and stuff. And
there was the year of faith, wasn't there too?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the timing of the year of Saint Joseph as well marks the 150th year, since he was declared the patron of the universal church. So
cool.
That I think we can focus some of our prayers for the church around kind of his intercession in kind of unifying the church and recognizing kind of the universality of the church itself, especially hopefully kind of post-pandemic, or like as we find our way kind of out of here. It's a good Saint Joseph is a good kind of anchor to kind of act as an intercessor, but also as an object for our contemplation.
It's so true, because like that was only, when you think of the patron saint of the church, you think Saint Joseph, right? But it really in the in the life of the church, it hasn't been that long, 150 years that he's been the patron saint of the church. Does that mean the church did not have a patron, universal patron before that, Matt?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't. Traditionally, I think he may have been held, like, because he's had a number of kind of traditional titles over the years. Because sometimes when you have these declarations, it's kind of either a formalization of an existing understanding, or it's sometimes it's kind of a new proclamation, and I don't know what it is in this case.
So Saint Joseph was chosen for the year of Saint Joseph. That was on December 8th. So that's 150 years after he was named the patron, right? December 8th, 1870, I guess.
1870, yeah.
And now, like, funny, the Feast of the Immaculate, the Summit of the Immaculate Conception, right? So now Pope Francis has declared a year of Saint Joseph from December 8th, which was last week, to December 8th of 2021. So we've already started. Usually you get a little bit of notice, like starting
prepared
this
for
day.
it,
And the church puts out materials and prayer cards and things to do. But it's like, no, it started last week and we're already in the year
There's some
of
kind
Saint Joseph.
There's some story there about that the Pope brings his most troubling and hardest concerns to Saint Joseph. I remember John Paul II brings him to Mother Mary, right? And there's a beautiful picture my parents had up in their house one time of like Pope John Paul hunched over, and as he's kind of doing, but Mary kind of like hugging him and holding him up, like so, like the weight of the world's on the Pope's shoulders, but Pope Francis was talking about how he brings his most troubling things to Saint Joseph, who has the courage and the strength. And so I think we don't really talk a lot about Saint Joseph. We talk about a lot as Catholics. We talk a lot about Mary. Yeah. She's the first Christian ever. She's the first one to give her yes to Jesus and all that stuff, which makes sense. But Joseph is also he's known. He's done some amazing things in the 4 times he appears in the Bible. He shows his giving his life to God and giving his everything over, but then he doesn't really, he's known still as Joseph the Carpenter. So to his friends and family, he's not known as the miraculous whoever. It's just, and even though he's known as Saint Joseph, miracle worker, right? Isn't that one? But he's known as Joseph the Carpenter to all his friends and family. So he's a simple man who just does, God tells him something, he's like, okay, I'm going to go do it.
And sorry, just my own kind of personal experience is that Saint Joseph is a big deal for me because I'm a carpenter, or that's my background. Or I have just across from my workbench, I have a picture of it could be either Saint Joseph or Jesus, with a hand plane and kind of working wood, and that's my own kind of personal devotion kind of developed out of that that initial identification. But in doing more research and in developing this over time, it's realizing that Saint Joseph is a pretty heavy hitter in terms of the saints, but that often gets kind of overshadowed or kind of doesn't take the spotlight. And I think that's actually significant too, because in his declaration, Pope Francis said that he's a discreet intercessor, that he's not somebody who needs to occupy kind of that central. Right. There's that meme on the internet. On the internet, if you go on the internet, there's a thing. Where it's the Holy Family, and it's out as Jesus is going up, and it's the speech bubble is Saint Joseph saying, how is it possible that anytime anything goes wrong, it's always my fault? Yeah. And it's the company that he keeps, that it's okay, you have the biggest players in the gospel, you have Jesus and Mary, and that our tradition and rightly upholds as kind of the pinnacle of faith. But when you look at the instances of Joseph in the Gospels, he's mentioned, and across the Gospels, 3 times. Yeah. So just the first time when it's talking about when he finds out that Mary is pregnant, and it says he plans to dismiss her quietly to not bring her to divorce any shame, or cut off the betrothal understanding the kind of cultural context that he's actually doing this to spare her any shame or any ridicule, rather than just kind of. But then an angel of the Lord comes and says, don't be afraid to take Mary as your wife. Great. Yeah. They go to Bethlehem. Jesus is born. You have the nativity story, but after that you have Joseph being warned in a dream not to return, but to go to Egypt instead. And it's okay, that's. It's funny, in the Gospels you have he's kind of the most miraculous thing that's ever happened to like that person that it's about, delivered in this kind of like really dry, nonchalant way. It's like, okay, and instead he took them to Egypt. He's like, from Bethlehem, that's no short journey.
No.
Well, like the Herodian army is in pursuit because they're trying to kill Jesus. That it's like, this is a heroic, like valiant action that he's protecting his family against, the forces, like the earthly forces that are trying to, whatever. And it's just like, it's a sentence. So just like, it's like the equivalent of like when Jason Bourne kind of, or like this is biblical espionage, or like that kind of thing. And you don't get that just from the text, but like when you actually look at the context of what he actually did, and that he's responding in very similarly. It's interesting. Sorry, I'm ranting here.
For it.
That it did coincide with the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. That it's we often talk about Mary's response to God in faith. The only time you encounter St. Joseph in the Gospels, he's responding in the same way. He's emulating that virtue.
Yeah. I love that. Like, that's one of the things I was listening to a speaker talk about at one time. St. Joseph is not known as the evader of Herod. And if you know the story of Herod, I mean, he killed his wife, he killed his son, he killed. He went in and killed a whole bunch of people in the temple, like the Jewish people, just like came and slaughtered them all because they were against him, like they were speaking against him and stuff. And so like for Herod to go after you, first of all, it wasn't a big thing, but was a big thing. Like it was, and so he came after baby Jesus. And Joseph's in a dream, picking up and just leaving, family, tradition, everything. I mean, when he went to Bethlehem, at least it was going to a place probably with a lot of his family because they were all going to pay the taxes in the place, where they come from. But he picked up and left and went to Egypt, like out of Herod's reach. Yeah. But the evader of Herod, like it wasn't a small thing that Herod was coming in and killing all these babies and trying to kill Jesus. Everyone knew what it was and that they kept going meant that they didn't find him. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so he's not known as Joseph, the evader of Herod, or of evader of the slaughter, or whatever, but the whole time is he's protecting, and he's not only protecting, he's protecting Mary, he's protecting Jesus, through his to say, like he could have, from my understanding now, and maybe someone who's more of a Jewish scholar could tell me different, but by him dismissing Mary, even though she's pregnant, it could kind of look, they were betrothed, something happened, it wasn't as disgraceful for her to be pregnant, because they divorced. So it was like, okay, something happened and then he divorced her. Versus him making, okay, whoa. She's pregnant, it's not mine. Could have made a big deal, she would have been stoned to death, right? So he was going to do it quietly, so he was a respectful man that way. But then not only that, said yes, and then he was protecting her just from that. And then protecting, like you said, with Herod, and then protecting so forth, even in the temple, going back and looking for Jesus, like all those kind of like as the 12-year-old or whatever, preaching in the temple.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why he's the patron, the universal patron of the church. And,
the protector.
The protector of the church, Joseph, how he quietly sort of protected and cared for Mary and Jesus. He does the same thing for the church, right? And I do like the connection there, because we do often talk about Mary's yes and follow her journey, but as soon as she said yes, Joseph's kind of springs into action as well, right? And kind of complements that yes, which is really beautiful. Like, you guys are married, you have wives that complement your mission in life and things, and that's, I think, a beautiful thing that Saint Joseph did for Mary and for all of us, though we don't often talk about, right? Because we do talk a lot about Mary, especially on the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. But yes, Pope Francis did say that this year, when we turn our attention more to Saint Joseph, that we can discover how to be someone who lives more of a life like Saint Joseph. And he says this, he goes, "The man who goes unnoticed, a daily, discreet, and hidden presence, an intercessor, a support, and a guide in times of trouble."
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like you were talking about, and Pope Francis made the point of this year being a year of pandemic.
It's
right?
a perfect time for it.
Yeah, let's start asking for the protection of Saint Joseph, right? And I think that's really, really a beautiful thing to do as a church, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And what is like? Obviously, I'm like we all have a sort of appreciation for Saint Joseph, but Pope Francis seems to have a real appreciation or connection with Saint Joseph as well. Hey, or is that just
Yeah, it seems like it. I don't know.
it's his patron saint? That's his name. I mean, hey, Joseph Bergoglio
okay.
is his name,
Yeah.
right? And but I know that a few years ago, Pope Francis made the decree to add the name of Saint Joseph in the Eucharistic prayers.
Okay.
Right? Eucharistic prayer 2, 3, and 4. So now we say, with the Blessed Virgin Mary, Joseph her spouse, Blessed Joseph her spouse.
Yeah.
We never used to say that before. Pope Francis, put that addition in, and so maybe there's a real fatherly sort of connection there, as you know.
I see him as a patron saint for me for that reason, for the fatherly intercession, but also just being a man. Like, if you look at the Holy Family, you only got one that you can actually relate to in a very real way because we are sinful creatures. You have Jesus and you have Mary, who lived life on earth,
Right.
but both being right. And so, like, Joseph is the only one that has that, for me, anyways. But has that experience. Would have made mistakes. Would have had to get up. Would have had to admit them, and then just keep moving on. Not only that, but Saint Joseph is the character that God put in his, like, God came down through Mary and put himself subservient, if you will, to both Mary and Saint Joseph. Like, those are the only two people on earth, really, that Jesus, God allowed himself to be at the command, honor thy father and the mother. He lived out those commandments. He was perfect in that way, right? But he lived out, so honoring the father and mother. So he put himself at this, like, at the, just not, I don't know, living out the honor rule to the parents and listening to them.
And just like the Lord, just like God had planned in the fullness of time, sort of in his plan that for Mary to be the mother of Jesus, he absolutely had planned Joseph to be the right person to be there, right?
Yeah.
And the couple of things we remember Joseph for, like you said, he's the patron of workers because of the work, the carpentry work that he did, providing for his family. He even taught that trade to Jesus, right? And Jesus learned it from Joseph. He was a father, right? And you make a good point. He's a member of the Holy Family who is the only member of the Holy Family who is with sin. And so as a father, though, the way he protected his family, worked for his family, had, like Pope Francis said, sort of a discreet sort of under the radar sort of presence. I think is beautiful. And then we even recognize Saint Joseph for two other things. One, you ever see a statue of the sleeping Joseph? There's a statue of a Joseph sleeping, and people put their prayers next to the sleeping Joseph because the Lord came to him in many ways in his dreams. So the
Always
Lord was communicating to him through his dreams. So people place their prayers. I know here in North Bay at St. Joseph Scholar Hall, there's a statue of the sleeping St. Joseph, and students put their prayers next to the statue. It's a beautiful tradition, and because oftentimes it was communicated to Joseph through his dreams, right?
Yeah.
And the next one that we remember St. Joseph for is to pray for a happy death.
Yes.
Because his death is not recorded in the scriptures, but he kind of lived his life well. We assume he had a happy death, being in the presence of Jesus. We're assuming Jesus was present at his father's passing there, and a happy death there, because if it was a significant, horrible death, you would think it would be recorded in the scriptures that way.
Yeah, and it's funny because one of the other kind of personal or like reason in the old calendar, the day of Saint Joseph's death is generally July 20th, which is my birthday. Which is fun fact.
Let's remember that next year.
So we'll have a big party.
For Saint Joseph.
For Saint Joseph.
Yeah.
But traditionally, there are different kind of roles, and the worker, the carpenter.
Wait, why was July 20th chosen for the typical date of Joseph's death?
It was held traditionally. So but we don't. Yeah, whether it's apocryphal or whether it's just kind of something that was passed down, oral tradition. But what was I going to say?
I know.
No, it's okay.
These things we were talking about Joseph about happy death.
That when we're talking about when Joseph does appear in the gospel, traditionally he's often depicted as just a very old man who's like big beard and whatever, like in the nativity story, whatever. Because the gospel narrative flips forward an entire generation, basically.
Yeah.
That we don't get that. It's probably the case that like in the thick of the action, when Joseph was like fleeing to Egypt with Mary and Jesus, that he was likely our age, or maybe even a bit younger. That it's like he was like the same age as Jesus was, or around when he started his ministry. So like it allows kind of that further identification, just that as a father, as a man, as a
exactly because when you think about Mary, we talk about we're talking a lot about the Holy Family this time of year. We're leading to Christmas. I mean, she was 14, 15 years old when the angel Gabriel came to her, right? So, I mean, Joseph was probably similar around her age, a little older than her.
Yeah, probably a little bit older, but
says like 30s to 40s, right? Wasn't that the idea? Yeah. Because they did. They went out and they got a job, they got all that kind of stuff, and then looked to get married. Established to get married,
Okay, so the reason the church chooses sort of like a year to focus on things is to reflect a little more deeply on a specific aspect of the faith. So reflecting more deeply on St. Joseph this year. What does that mean for Catholics? What does that mean for us to really reflect on St. Joseph a little more? Number one, we're called to be people who pray for his intercession. I know the Vatican has released a number of prayers and things, and there are prayers to St. Joseph to ask for his help throughout the year. Number two, parishes really should think of ways to include the celebration of the year of St. Joseph in their communities. A few months from now, March 19th is the Feast of St. Joseph, so maybe we should probably plan now for something.
We always have a party. So this comes back to my parents' long time trying to get a farm. God had kind of spoken to them and told them they're going to get, and they said, well, if we ever eventually get this farm, and it was years and years, and eventually they did get a farm. The farm that they were told a couple of years, like 10 years before, they would have a party to St. Joseph because they were praying to St. Joseph for it. And so every year, Lent or not, we have a big party on St. Joseph on March 19th.
And you can, because it's a solemnity. So
exactly,
if Lent is going on,
we still have
you could break the Lent.
We're also Irish, so we have the 17th and then the 19th. It's that 18th in between that's always hard to kind of get.
That's the day of rest.
Exactly.
Recuperate. Yeah, exactly. But that reminded me when you were talking about a different tradition that people have.
Selling houses, buying houses.
Yes, exactly. And I think you did that.
No, we didn't. But we talked about it.
A
lot of people told us to.
You bury the statue of St. Joseph
upside down. Yeah, that's the old myth or the tradition.
Okay, and someone else was telling me about this week. Yeah. What do you do with the statue? So let's say you bury the statue, okay, you sell your house. You don't leave them there?
I don't actually know. I don't know if I've ever gotten that far.
Okay.
But I know that like
you take them back up?
I would imagine so. You put them on the front of your mailbox or something. Okay. I don't know.
It's not like one day people are going to be, digging up to build a garage.
You're going to find a statue upside down of
St. Joseph. Yeah. Gosh, imagine. Yeah. Okay, so another thing that we should discuss before we end this episode is that during the year of St. Joseph, just like a special year, Jubilee year in the church grants plenary indulgences for people who partake in certain prescribed things of the church. So what does the church prescribe for? Do you want to mention quickly what a plenary indulgence is for people who don't know?
Basically, I think we did a whole episode on it, or we talked about it.
We did a whole episode on it.
On plenary indulgences?
Yeah.
Was I asleep for it?
No, you gave most of the time. No, I'm kidding. So for those who don't want to go back and watch that episode, the crash course, plenary indulgence basically helps us with the physical effect or the effect here on earth.
It's the remission of our temporal punishment.
Yeah, exactly, here on earth. And so that's what it is. So even though I say, I use this with my kids all the time now, but even though I say I'm sorry, I'm forgiven, there's still effect of my sin. And so getting rid of that and that's what plenary.
Sure, and the best way to explain that to kids, if I hurt you, I can say I'm sorry after, but you're still hurt.
Exactly.
You still have a black eye.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the effect of our sin is still present in the world. Yeah. So a plenary indulgence removes that from us. So the church has prescribed that there's special indulgences during the year of St. Joseph, and there's a number of prayers and actions you can do, including praying for the unemployed, entrusting your daily work to St. Joseph, performing a corporal or spiritual work of mercy, meditating on the Lord's Prayer for at least 30 minutes. There's lots of other resources on the Vatican website right now, and we're going to share that too in our local parishes. But with every plenary indulgence, you have to follow through with three things. Okay? Correct me if I'm wrong. You have to pray for the Pope and his intentions, right? You have to attend to the sacrament of confession, and then you have to receive the Eucharist, attend Mass and receive the Eucharist in a state of grace for that plenary indulgence to take effect.
Yeah,
I guess
presumably in that order.
Presumably in that order. Yeah, exactly. Okay, and I think it's a beautiful way for us to really reflect this year on Saint Joseph. What does it mean to have someone who protects us, who is like another father figure to all of us, you know? And who knows what will come when we pray for his intercession. Yeah. You know, like just like in our parish community, we've been praying for the intercession of Saint Michael at the end of all of our masses. You can feel that the protection of Saint Michael with us. Just months of us doing that. You know, you can really feel it. I can feel it. What would happen if all of us started to continue to pray for Saint Joseph's protection?
He's also the patron saint of Canada, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. So that's another. I mean, for those of us watching outside of Canada, I'm sorry, but you know,
Yeah.
we had him in Canada.
And following what you're saying about like just kind of practices that we can do throughout the year of St. Joseph, that normally as part of our kind of evening prayers with the boys, we do the longer St. Joseph prayer as just kind of part of the end prayers. But if we're pressed for time, if we're doing the quick version because they need to go to bed, it's usually St. Joseph, patron of families, exemplar of men, terror of demons, which is another name that he's been given. And it's funny, like playing on that kind of heroic virtue kind of a thing, and paralleling that with kind of Mary. That I believe it's Saint Louis de Montfort, who talks about how significant it is that Mary, as the handmaid of the Lord, overcame the devil, and that like their responses to God are completely antithetical. That Satan refused to serve, that he wanted to be the top, that Mary was fully obedient to God's plan, that and in so doing became like the preeminent citizen of heaven. That is like that. It's a complete inversion. But that paralleling that with Saint Joseph, that it's his obedience, it's his willingness to say yes in faith to God's plan, that is that kind of, it makes him terrifying too.
The other thing that you just reminded me of in that whole theory is Joseph was the person who named Jesus. And it says in the Bible that, and like the angel says, and you will call him Yeshua or whatever. But like, if Joseph said, no, I'm going to name him Bob, could you imagine what difference it would be? See, but so in terror of demon, like he gave us the name Jesus, where every knee shall bow and everything tongue confess. But also that demons flee before is the name of Jesus, that it was given to him by God, but he was obedient and gave Jesus that name. You know what I mean? Versus like if he named him Kevin or something.
Our Lord and Savior Kevin.
Exactly.
Just doesn't have that.
Or Dave ring. Or something. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I just want to read this quickly because the Pope concluded the letter he wrote the other day, which is available online. It's a beautiful letter that he wrote about proclaiming the year of St. Joseph. He ends with this prayer, okay, and I'm assuming he wrote it, or maybe it's one of the old traditions, I don't know. He says here, "Hail, guardian of the Redeemer, spouse of the Blessed Virgin Mary, to you God entrusted his only Son. In you Mary placed her trust. With you, Christ became man. Blessed Joseph, to us too, show yourself a father and guide us in the path of life. Obtain for us grace, mercy, and courage, and defend us from every evil. Amen." Beautiful.
love
Okay?
it. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, on that note, we're out of time, so we're going to celebrate the year of St. Joseph. We have a whole year to do it, so I hope this has been helpful just to talk a little bit about. And also this week, 2 days from now, on Thursday, our shepherd, our guardian, I guess, for the Diocese of St. Marie, will be installed officially in our diocese, Bishop Thomas Dowd. So we ask people to keep him in your prayers as he's installed on Thursday. That is going to be available live on Salt and Light television channel, or if you don't have the channel at home, you can watch it on their website. I think it's saltandlighttv.org is their website. Okay? So thanks for this discussion about St. Joseph. I'm certainly going to be praying for his intercession very often here at daily. I'm going to add it to my daily. But I pray for his intercession daily when I pray the rosary, but I'm going to make a special point now of praying that prayer.
maybe.
Yeah, this prayer. I know it sounds
Or the prayer of
very
St. Joseph. I love the prayer of St. Joseph too. It's long though, but right?
Okay, so that's all the time. If you have any questions about this episode or another episode, you can always drop us a line at the Catholic Buzz Podcast at gmail.com. And we will see you next week for our grandiose Christmas episode, our Christmas speed round episode. We're going to answer all the questions you sent us about the Christmas season. For Matt Den Milligan and Josh Sullivan wearing a black hoodie, I'm Father Daniele. We'll see you next time on the Catholic Buzz.